we're halfway through the last live session, but no one pointed it out because it works for the Zoom. It's just this OBS program I use wasn't. Yeah, we're coming through now, but it wasn't. I mean, I'm not listening to it. I can't hear on the other end of YouTube, so that's why it was causing problems for us. So, all right, everybody, welcome. So I do have a quote for discussion for this evening, and hopefully you all have something thoughtful that you maybe saw this week too, but I'm going to go ahead and share my quote, and we can just open up the floor for some discussion on that. So the quote I have is, "It must always be remembered that no one man can speak for all of Freemasonry. One man's interpretation of a symbol, a word, or even the entire craft may not match up entirely or in any form whatsoever to that of his fellow brothers. Many a current and past member of our fraternity are absolutely happy and convinced that our craft is nothing more than a superficial social club, geared to impress some moral and ethical lessons, or to gain some favor of a manager, colleague, or business associate." And that is from Robert Hurd in his book. Let's see if that will come in. Well, it's not going to come in, but it's from his book, The Initiatic Experience, which is one of my favorites. I don't know that Robert's actually active in Freemasonry anymore, but his books are very well spoken, and they really get to the thick of what's important in the fraternity. So that's what I have for the quote. If anyone has any thoughts on that, they'd like to start with sharing.
Well, if nobody's going to jump in, I've got a couple of thoughts here.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so it's obvious from the first statement, certainly no one man can speak for all of Freemasonry. We are an individualistic group. We are from many different places, many different walks of life, many different backgrounds. We are blue collar guys. We are white collar guys. We are trade professionals. We are educated men. We are uneducated men. We are from widely varied backgrounds. So yeah, certainly no one man can speak for all of Freemasonry. But to go on, hang on, I gotta pull it back up again. Come here. One man's interpretation of a symbol or word or even the entire craft may not match up entirely in any form whatsoever to that of his fellow brothers. Again, pretty self-explanatory. We're a diverse bunch of guys. What we do have, though, and I'm reaching back to the first sentence in this one too. What we do have is an overall state-wide reaching governing authority that does more or less speak to the goals, the incentives, and the mindset of the craft at the state level. You look, though, a little bit further. We have 50 states, a few territories, and then you have Masonry globally to consider in all of this. So yeah, this is absolutely a true statement. No one person can put it out how Masonry is, but they're still gonna try.
Yeah.
Some of those guys.
It's interesting. Thank you. Brad, did you mean to put
Byron,
your hand? Oh, go ahead, Danny.
If somebody else had their hand up, I'll let them go.
Also, I saw Brad doing some stuff. I didn't know if he was raising his hand or not.
Okay. I was just say, Byron, I think you're right on, right? Like, we have governing bodies, we have people who speak with a lot of authority a lot of times, right? We find mentors and teachers wherever we are in Freemasonry, but ultimately the symbolism is there to teach us and through what we have learned and our perspective and what we have experienced in our lives. And maybe the experiences that we're going through right now in our lives, and as we reflect on other experiences we've had previously in our lives, we bring all of that to the lens that we look through. And then these great principles, these great archetypes And these stories that we learn through the work of Masonry, we are able to apply our experiences, our lens of understanding, and this is what we receive from that symbolism, right? Um, Maybe there is, a greater piece there that could be interpreted because it is a good allegory or it is a good symbol. But however, we don't need to just lean on one person's understanding of it always, right? I know there's some great people that I like to listen to because I think they're really smart and I like to hear what they have to say about things. But that doesn't mean that they are the exclusive knowledge holder of all things Masonry or anything for that matter. So I think it's important to take time to pause and stop and reflect on your life experiences and what you've gone through, and then to have conversations like this that's going to actually encourage other points of view to come through as well.
Interesting. Like that.
Yeah, it's I think it's fun to listen to all the different varied interpretations of what it is that we try to do, or the standards we attempt to hold ourselves to. No one of us is a perfect individual. In fact, no matter what theological, no matter what theological belief system you adhere to, we are all individually inherently flawed. And if you are willing to embrace that flawedness, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I don't know. But if you're willing to embrace the fact that you are not a perfect individual and that you are seeking to become a more perfect individual, then this is where you need to be. This is what we try to do. I hate to fall back on making good men better, but that's how it starts. We're trying to become less flawed than we were yesterday.
It's insightful.
I kind of believe in both of those analogies. I think that over time we all develop into different people than we originally began as. I mean, there's that old saying from the Bible that when I was a child, I thought as a child. Now that I'm a man, I put away my childish ways, right? And there's a lot of truth to that. And there's lessons that we learn throughout our journey that we're not always apprised to. That, well, most of us are. I think once we're within a couple years in, we realize that these different layers of degrees that we go through are all relevant to stages of life. And as an apprentice, we're in our youth. As a fellow craft, we're in our middle years and our producing years. As an apprentice, we don't know a whole lot. We're just trying to take in and trying to learn as much as we can, hopefully. And then as a fellow craft, we're more able to contribute. And then as a master, we have the wisdom to contemplate and to guide others. And I think that what was said earlier when Daniel was talking about we see things through the lens of time. We've spoken on this many times, and I'm glad that he feels the same way. I'm glad that we have people that listen that feel the same way, because we need more people to explain this to brothers out there, that each one of us comes to the table with different preconceptions, and if we're open to interpretation, different interpretations as we go through life, we'll be open to more understanding from where we came from. What we began as today is not where we have to be tomorrow. And if we are in that same place tomorrow, we're probably not doing anything with today. That's kind of how I feel about our journey. And then with our right worshipful Weber, I like saying that. Just wanted to
That
say
just
that.
messes me up every time I hear it, I gotta
So
say.
what right worshipful Weber said, yeah, we come from all different backgrounds, and that's where our lens comes from.
Mhm.
But hopefully, we are able to look outside of ourselves, um, and look towards what other people bring to the table that we can acquire to add to our own tool belt. That's the name of the game. It's not necessarily that we're, in the business of making good men better. It just happens because we're open. The real Freemason is open to interpretation. We're a free stone in works. We're always constantly changing and constantly being shaped and molded into who we're eventually going to become, when we truly become the master, right? And that's in death. And so I think how any one man interprets Freemasonry, he is both absolutely wrong and absolutely right at the same time. Because he is exactly right to himself at that moment, and that's where he is in that moment, and it's okay to be that person. But it's absolutely wrong that that's all he'll ever be, and that's the only way he'll ever think. I don't think that most Freemasons lend themselves to or don't lend themselves to being molded and shaped by the masters. Every Freemason knows that he is the apprentice as well as the master, and we're always learning from somebody.
What you're saying is, it made me think of a concept, and I don't like the concept in the way that it's used, and I'm not trying to get political here, but people are talking about my truth. This is my truth, and the reason I don't like that concept the way it is presented today is because this is my truth, so you have to accept it and you have to adjust yourself accordingly, right? But it's perfectly okay to have your own perspective on something. If it is your truth that Freemasonry is nothing but a service organization, you're welcome to believe whatever you want, but don't try to impose that on anybody else. And it's the same thing with any of the other approaches we talked about with Freemasonry. You're welcome to believe whatever you want. I would strongly encourage you and invite you to be open-minded, like we're talking about, and open to growth. Otherwise, we're not good Freemasons if we're not open to growth. But it's that same perspective. And I mean, your truth may, like I said, your truth may be that we're a service organization. You're welcome to believe that. I'm not going to tell you, or I shouldn't tell you you're wrong, but you should be willing to believe what I believe. You should be willing to accept what I believe as much as I accept what you believe. And I'm open to growth. I'm open to you proving me wrong, right? I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it is a service organization. I don't think so, but maybe it is. Prove me wrong, right? And it's the same. It's like Dennis always said, like, prove me wrong. I'm always open to learn something, but it has to go both ways. You have to be open to that too.
I think to some degree today it is more of a service organization than it was when it originally started.
Mm-hmm.
And not that it wasn't originally there either. When the gentlemen of the day got together to find the solutions of the day, to solve the problems of the day, what were they doing but trying to serve? They were getting together, getting the strongest minds together, trying to serve humankind, trying to help for the betterment of society. However, I do believe that what they were doing back then is different than what we're doing today. I think today we're trying to throw money at it as opposed to trying to find solutions to the problems of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that within our own walls, we help each other to gain strength and understanding and knowledge. But until we take that outside of the walls, um, it's really no good to anybody.
Yeah.
So kudos to all you brothers out there who are going out there and running for office, who are going out there and writing books, who are going out there and being the best damn manager you can be, or giving that customer the best customer service that they could give, that they could receive. That all makes a difference to that one individual's life that you touch in that moment. And if we can do that, we're helping humankind. Now, are we doing it on the scale that they were thinking before, as in trying to come up with, science and technology? We may not be, but I think that through our lessons and through our greatest resource, which is each other, I think that that we can achieve that individually as we go along each and every day. And I just I tell anybody who wants to just I tell anybody who wants to screw with the progress of any brother who is trying to do better, go find something else to do. We need support. We need to support each other in being the best people that we can be.
Yeah.
I want to surround myself with good humans. I don't care if you're a brother, a man, or woman, whatever. I want to surround myself with good humans, because those are the people that I'm going to learn from. And, just so happens that some of the best humans I know are right here on the show and listen to us regular, and we talk to each other regularly. And I find it throughout our walls. However, if that's not your goal, is to be the best human that you can be, then I don't really need you in my life. Sorry.
It's funny you mentioned running for office, because I turned in paperwork just earlier pretty recently. I'm running for the school board, local school board. So I turned in the paperwork for that. I figured I had too much free time, so I might as well do something else.
Nice.
Really? Nice.
Well, there's nobody running.
I wish you well, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And but there's nobody running, and so even if I don't get it, I feel like the incumbents should be willing and able to defend their position. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's time for someone else to step up. Sorry, Brad. I see your hand up. What's up, buddy?
I just wanted to add my thoughts on the quote. So I was listening to you guys and your thoughts on it, and I'm kind of focused right in the middle of the quote where it says, many a current and past member of our fraternity are absolutely happy, and that's cool, and convinced that our craft is nothing more than a superficial social club. And so it started good, and then it kind of went weird at the end of that sentence. Superficial social club. So, I can see that maybe a lot of the lodges are kind of centered around more of a social club aspect of it. The whole thing about every different lodge has a different culture. But what I've been learning from you guys is that there's just so much more to this craft than just a social club. Because you can really expand your mind. By expanding your mind, it expands everything. It makes me a better human, a better husband, a better father, a better worker, a better friend, all better. It makes me better by expanding my mind and trying to learn all these things that this craft has to offer. The social aspect is pretty good too, because I do enjoy socializing with you guys. But I learned so much from each of y'all. So I don't really do it to impress some moral or ethical lesson or to gain favor of a manager or anything like that. I just do it because it makes me feel good to be better for everybody else.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, it goes back to iron sharpening iron, right? You know, people being around other people that cause them to level up. Um, the quote itself, I mean, the way I perceive that section you're talking about is just saying, you know, you have many members that are already in the fraternity, past masters, and they're maybe not happy but content. Maybe content's a better word. Content with believing that Freemasonry is just some. There's nothing to it. It's a mile wide but an inch deep, right? It's like this really deep, shallow puddle. I mean, really broad, shallow puddle with all this ritual, but there's nothing to it further than the words themselves. And I think
Like
that's
if
kind of
the yeah, like if the what is that, the salt, what is that, the Salt
Dead,
Lake or whatever,
the Dead
the
Sea
the the Dead Sea,
or the
you
Great
know,
Salt Lake.
yeah,
The Great
it's
Salt Lake.
or the Great Salt Lake maybe, the where it's you know, huge, but it's only like, you know, half a foot deep, 6 inches deep, whatever. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm not one
Yeah,
of those.
I think you're thinking of the Dead Sea.
I
but
may be.
but
Who knows?
there was a time when joining the fraternity, and it's not. I'm not saying this was the right reason to do it, but joining the fraternity did get you. It did help you get jobs, and it did. I mean, it was treated like that in a lot of places, and that's what they're saying. Like they're a lot of people content thinking it's like that still, or that it's just some really superficial, like really basic. Just it's all window trimmings and everything, but there's nothing below that. And he's being kind of tongue in cheek. He's saying people believe this, but that's not the case.
Well, if to be honest, I mean, if I'm looking for someone to fill a position and we have, you know, three great candidates that are all equal in value and one is a Mason, I'm going to hire the Mason. And the reason why is because I I know that that person has gone through the same things that I've gone through, and I know that person should be a true and trusted friend. And so I would expect that they would want the best for me and my company, um, at all times, whereas other people may not have that same connection, that same value. And you know, I may be wrong for it. That's probably why it's good I'm not a manager at this time. But I'm going to tell you, if I'm in that position and given the option, then I'm going to give that preferential treatment. It's just like when you hear all these people hiring veterans and stuff like that. They believe that training has brought on a certain level of responsibility and a certain management skill that they're looking for, usually a top down management skill where you just, you know, do whatever's asked of you and, you know, what have you.
Well,
But
if you've been in the
but
military, you know how to manage veterans. You know how to manage other military people. You know
right,
the training they
right.
had.
Well, but there's companies that just flat out give preferential treatment to veterans, and it happens, and so with no apologies. So I'm not going to apologize for how I feel either. I believe that I can trust another brother more than I can trust the other guy off the street. And
Well, it,
so I'm going to make that I'm going to if I have to make that decision, all things being equal, that's the decision I'm going to make.
it's a value added proposition. You know, you can, as you said, you know, you can look at, you know, multiple candidates who evidence the same qualifications, same kind of experience, the same sort of background. But then when you throw in the veteran, the Mason, the you know, pick your preferential group, whatever, you understand already that these guys have been through some sort of ritual, some sort of rite of passage that gives them a leg up when it comes to a hiring position or hiring into a position rather. You know, and then, you know, we've all seen on the, even on the social media posts, hey, I'm looking for a contractor, or I'm looking for a lawyer, or I'm looking for a doctor. Does anybody know a Mason in this area that meets those requirements? Because we do that for each other. It's not just about the value added proposition, but it's always knowing, especially in regards to Freemasonry, knowing that you're going to deal, as you said, Dennis, with a true and trusty friend, a guy who is going to have your interests at heart versus
first. Yeah.
their own interests at heart.
Yeah. And it's especially like, when I didn't go into Masonry expecting anything like this, but when I first got into Masonry and my first wife decided to divorce me shortly after, and man, my brothers huddled around me, and I owe them dearly. They circled around, they circled the wagons, and there was one brother I literally just gave up everything to my ex-wife, and against his wishes, I gave up everything to my ex-wife. But he represented me as my attorney and got all the paperwork done and didn't charge me a dime. And I didn't ask for that, but I was pretty
huge,
distraught.
That's huge.
I was pretty distraught, and he took me in. That was the brother that raised me, and he took care of me. And if I have a situation to where I can do the same for somebody else, then I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be that brother to another brother. And I hope that we have more of that within our fraternity than just fly by the night social enterprise.
I will say,
I certainly hope that more brothers feel like I do than to the contrary.
I'll add to your point, though, talking about the lawyer and everything. It's always, if I have a service to offer a brother or the fraternity, it is ultimately my decision if I'm going to offer like a discount or do it pro bono, right? As a Mason or as a lodge, this is just my personal belief. And again, going back to our own
I would
perspectives,
never
our own
ask
truths.
for a discount or anything.
Never,
That's-
because that is
yeah.
their livelihood.
Never ever.
That is how they're paying their bills, their dues, and how they're contributing to society with their money. It is, if they can and they want to, they will. But you should never ask. And
Right.
I think a lot of lodges, I think that's probably why they burn away a lot of business people, because
I think a lot of people get burned out because of that,
Yeah,
because
like
they get used up and used and abused, really.
well, if I do
in
roofs
some ways.
and the lodge has roof problems, they're going to ask me to do it like for free or like a steep discount or something. Well, I'm not going to keep showing up. They keep asking me to like do something like that.
Well, look at all the people on all the committees that we have with our Grand Lodge. Look at all the lawyers that we have for our civil law and our jurisprudence. I mean, those guys, they put in countless hours for the fraternity for free.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's
And those
their
are
choice.
not $20 an hour jobs.
No.
Those are not $20 an hour lawyers by any means. Those are $200 to $400 an hour lawyers, easy. And they donate their time to our fraternity, and people don't realize that, but it is their choice. They accept that, and they want to help.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, I would never ask someone to do anything for free or pressure them to do anything for free. If I was to ask them to serve on a committee or something, of course, that would be, just to help the fraternity. Wouldn't be to help me myself, but it's always their choice if anybody wants to help.
Love it. So that's.
But I'd like to go back to real quick. Go back to the point that was made earlier on, how brothers change and grow and whatnot over time. There's brothers that I've thought very highly of that have lost my respect over the years, and there's been brothers that I've thought pretty low of that have gained my respect over the years. And I wouldn't say that any of them deserves my disdain, as far as the ones that have, not been what I thought that they were going to be. But I think that given the opportunity, at some point they'll probably come back around. And so with that being said, I think that we should stay open to other people being allowed to evolve as well, and not focus on just where they are in one moment in time. You don't judge a man's life by one bad decision in his lifetime.
Well,
right?
someone says something that makes you angry, and every time you hear their name, you're thinking about that time it made you angry. You're not thinking about before that or who they might be now. And so, I mean, I'm not going to name names, but perfect examples. I mean, there was one brother. I won't say where I saw him or anything, but I was kind of frustrated with him, and he came up and talked to me, and greeted me like an old friend, right? And it's like, you know what? He's not. I was wrong. I was wrong about this guy, and we have to be willing to. We have to get past. I don't want to bring up ego again, right? But it seems like it's a common thread in our conversations lately. It's we have to get over ourselves, right? We have to admit maybe I was wrong about this person, and maybe I need to reevaluate my beliefs.
Yeah.
And Justin, to build on that for a second, right? Part of that is maybe, are we willing to be open to growth? Are we willing to be open to different interpretations? And I know, Dennis, you've said this multiple times, like at any point, we are going to be the master of something, we're going to be the apprentice of something, right? At some point, we might have mastery in a certain level of our lives, but we need to be the apprentice somewhere else and have a mentor and have someone teaching us other things. And so we have to be open to that growth that's there. And part of that is ego, right? Part of that is saying some humility that you have to bring into the conversation. Say, I'm not the best at this, or I hopefully this person's improved, and hopefully they're proving you wrong. If if you had a thought about them that was negative, hopefully that's happening over time.
One of the things that comes into my mind when you were speaking, Daniel, is a relationship my father had with a friend of mine. It was a sponsee relationship. My dad, the sponsor, my friend, his, sponsee. And as my father neared the end of his life, he found himself in need of someone who had been through different situations, different experiences. And he wound up turning to that kid that he sponsored and saying, "Hey man, I need you to help me now." And that's kind of it's an ideal that I have tried to live up to as well. I may be, as you said, Daniel, the master in some situations, but as a Mason, I need to be willing to also embrace those times when I need to be the apprentice and learn the lessons from someone who may be younger, less experienced, whatever, but their experiences are different and enlightening to me.
It's also important to understand with that concept is sometimes you might be an apprentice for an hour, sometimes you might be an apprentice for several years, sometimes you might become an apprentice to something that you learned or heard some time ago, and just upon reflecting, it has impact on you. But we have to be open to that, to understand that it's not a one and done kind of thing. It's very fluid, and it's not linear. You can grow from past experiences upon reflection, right? You can grow from brief conversations, and so it's important to understand that it's an ongoing and fluid mentality you have to be willing to adopt, and willing to. It's like the saying, right? Kabbalion, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And sometimes you'll hear something and you're not ready for it. Oh, that's nice.
You guys ready?
But sometimes you'll hear something you're not ready for, and you're not ready to learn from it. And then later down the road, you're learning from something you were taught. And so it's important to recognize that it's not always. We have to drop our preconceived notions, right? We have to to rip off Disney. You have to be willing to subvert your own expectations, right? You have to understand that things. Sometimes you grow from things you don't think you will, and sometimes you grow when you don't think you're ready. But the universe doesn't care. It's like we talked about in our last show. You are where you're supposed to be, based off your life experiences and everything you put into the universe. You're where you're supposed to be, and something, I don't know. It all comes full circle, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
I just said sometimes we have to stop and reflect though too, Justin, right? If we're always consuming, if we're always just going, we have to stop and reflect. We have to take time to be still and to think about those things and to reflect on those things as well. That's important. If all we're doing is trying to get the handshakes and this, that, and the other, we don't actually take time to read what's out there and pause and think about it, or have these discussions like we're having right now, right? Hopefully everybody's thinking through this and working on that. So that's something to add to it.
You're absolutely right, and you can't grow without reflection. And that's the thing. The questions and answers, the catechism, it can really have a huge impact on man. However, if you're just memorizing it and not reflecting on it, you're just regurgitating words. And it's the same thing with the lessons in Presbyterian degrees. Or say you go to Royce City and hear some fantastic presentations, or you go to the Masonic Summit, or you go to officer leadership training, and you're just listening, right? I'm not saying you have to take notes, but you're not like keeping up with everything and thinking about, do I agree with this? How does it fit in? How can I make it work in my lodge? If you're not reflecting, and if you're just sitting there smiling and nodding, you're going to turn around and leave and have gained nothing from it. Right? Now you could go home and think about it, but if that never happens, if you're never reflecting, if you're never actually thinking about how you feel about what you're hearing and how it fits into your life, and in some cases weighing that against your existing belief system, this is what I already believe, this is what they're saying, like this make more sense or this make more sense, right? Do I need to look more into this? Am I willing to let go of my ego a little bit and maybe drop a few things and build upon what I already have? If you're not willing to do that, it's all superficial, right? Going back to that what we were talking about earlier, it's all superficial. It looks nice, it sounds nice. People, I could say I was here, but I could check a box, but I'm not actually growing from it, and it's a waste of everybody's time.
Well, that's part of the reason why I began to write. There's a lot of people in life that write in journals every day at the end of their day or whatever. And me, I'm not that guy necessarily. However, when I'm reading a book or whatever, I've got 100 thoughts going through my mind. It takes me forever to read a book because I will read 3 sentences and I'll have 100 thoughts to those 3 sentences. And so I have to start jotting things down at a certain point. I have to start reflecting on it and writing these things down so that I'll be able to share them later, not because I feel like I'm that important, but I think the message is that important. And I think that if I'm just getting it for the first time, then hopefully it'll be somebody else's opportunity to get it for the first time when I share it. I'm
You sound like you got a frog in your throat, but I'll jump in. Even if, so you said even if it strikes you for the first time, it might strike someone else. I mean, we're talking about reading the Kabbalion together, right? We're going to talk about it for our Inner Circle Book Club on March 1st. I have no doubt, I haven't read the chapter yet, but I have no doubt as I read through this, I'm going to come across things, even though I've read this book before, I'm going to come across new ideas because I have grown since I have read this. It's been several years. I have grown, and I'm looking at the same text, but through a different lens. And so I'm going to write things down, and I may share that with some people. Now, if it's new to me, it's new to somebody else. If it's a new thought for me, it's new to somebody else. And I've had it before where I'll share things and people will be like, "Well, that's obvious." No, it's not obvious. If it's new to me, it's the same thing. Like if you're listening to a presentation like at work, and you have a question comes through mind, and it's a good question. It's not just, "Hey, I'm paying attention, so pay attention to me." It's a good question. Odds are, if you have that question or a concern, other people have the same question or concern. It's this idea where we get in our own head. It's funny. The people that probably should overthink things don't. They talk too much during questions and answers and stuff. And the people who do overthink things are the ones that actually have the really good questions and the thoughtful.
What are you trying to say?
No, I'm thinking about work here. But my point is, and that is a really good practice. That was actually something recommended by Jim Rohn. If you've never heard Jim Rohn, he has some great talks on YouTube. He's kind of like the predecessor to who's that guy you like? The oh man, I can't remember. He's a big John Maxwell. John Maxwell. But anyway, my issue is when I start writing notes, it takes me, just like you're talking about, it takes me forever to finish the book. Because I'm writing notes and sitting back and thinking about that, and then I'll read a few more sentences and write a few more notes. But it is a really good practice if you can get yourself to do it. Writing notes, keeping a journal, not necessarily like a daily journal, because I'm not even about that. That's it's a diary. Let's just call it that. I'm not about diaries. But if you want to have like a spiral notebook, and I've actually got a few.
Man, I've got a few also. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I continue to write an article for our lodge newsletter, because it helps me to reflect, every month. Like, I've been thinking the last few days about, doing the presentation doing a presentation or an article on one of the most hidden secrets of our fraternity, that's not actually discussed openly in our working tools, which is mentorship.
Oh,
I thought
it was going to be green bean casserole.
It's just right there. That's what we're doing, but we don't really discuss it so much. We're discussing all these other tools on self-help and this and that, and but one of the biggest characteristics of our degree system is mentorship. And so, that's what I'll be writing on. And I, this conversation couldn't have happened at a better time, because it falls right into play with all the characteristics of good mentorship and having a humble servant's heart in your lodge.
I do want to touch on one thing before we move on. We're talking about the whole journaling system, and I don't really have many journals right now. But everyone likes, we can't tell because it's blurry, but like, I think a lot of Masons dream of having like a nice little library that they can leave their children, right? Especially if they're Masons also. But the most valuable part of that library would be your journals, because it provides a whole new level of insight. It'd be like having it's like the commentary, like Pike's commentary. Have something to read after you read Morals and Dogma. It's the same thing. It's your dad's commentary, right? Dad's commentary on Morals and Dogma. Dad's commentary on the Kabbalah, stuff like that. And it's very personal, and it's very insightful. So it's worth it. It's worth it to build that up.
That's part of what's driven me as an adult, an adult in his later years, is, my boys and I, we don't have the relationship that I wish that we had. It took me many years to become the half of a man that I am today. But I know they love me, and I know that one day they're going to go through my stuff, And when they do, they're going to know how to find it. And, you know, I've told y'all before, every one of my books that are important to me have a $2 bill in it. And they'll know that that's an important book to hold on to take note of. Well, and then, of course, you know, all my writings will be there as well, for them to read and go through as they want to see what kind of thoughts that I had throughout my journey that I shared with my brothers that I didn't share with a whole lot of the rest of the world. You know, at some point I'm going to, you know, finish the damn book that I've been writing. I had a couple setbacks this year, but at some point I'm going to finish this stupid book. I got to figure out what order I want to put it in. I hadn't decided on that.
I'm never gonna finish mine, dude. Every time I wait like every 6 months, I'm like, I'm gonna go back. And
dude, I've got all the stuff I need to.
Around. I delete like half the stuff and move it all around. Like, this is stupid. And then it's like I make no progress. I just rewrite what I had every time. So it's never gonna happen.
Yeah, so that's part of the driving force that drives me in doing what I do as well. Is you know, I was reading this. Oh, what was it? I may have been watching a documentary, but you know, everything we do in life is because of fear of death, right? Fear of all memories of us being lost. You know, that usually drives what we choose to do in life, whether it's be heavy into family, heavy into sports, heavy into, you know, Freemasonry. Whatever we do it because we want to be remembered in that way. And it's all driven by the fear of death. You know, we may come to terms with it, but at some point we all fear it in some way. We don't want to die yet. We all want to live forever because it's a pretty cool life. But, you know, we all want to leave our mark, and that's one of the things that I want to do. And hopefully I've left a mark throughout the years and have helped enough people that it kind of trickles down and helps enough families. You know, even if I never got it right, maybe somebody else could get it right for me.
That's where I urinate everywhere I can. Just trying to mark myself, my territory. That way people walk by like, smells like Justin. He's been here.
Don't cross paths with me, buddy.
Yeah, don't cross paths with Dennis. He lives something else. Smells like Dennis has been here.
Kid marks.
Those aren't Lincoln logs.
Man, I just got over the flu, man. I'm still not 100%. We don't need to talk like that.
Okay.
Guys, I got back from Vegas after I talked to y'all last. Man, it was a rough and rugged road. I got home, and the very minute I got home, I started puking, and it's been going on for a week. And I'm just now starting to have food in my stomach. Huh?
You said flu earlier this week. Is that the flu or the stomach virus?
It was the flu.
Because we had stomach virus go through the house. Luckily, I didn't get it, but everyone else.
And maybe that was part of it too. I don't know, but I got diagnosed with the flu.
Sushi bar.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Dude, y'all just stop. That's where I was, and it was tough, and it was good, but golly, man, don't make me think about it.
The all subs burrito didn't help either, Dennis.
You know, you guys, I'm fixing to have to get off of here. Y'all are making it rough on me. I'm serious. I just started drinking water. I've had freaking ginger ale all week, and I just went back to water, and y'all are making it tough.
Sorry.
It's not our job to make things easy on you, Dennis. It really isn't.
We're trying to help you grow, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Pain is just weakness leaving the body.
Yes.
Or in your case, other things leaving the body.
Yes.
Anyway,
in so many different ways.
Did anyone else have anything that they wanted to share this week, like a quote? I know we talked last week about if anything really stuck with you, to make note of it or something. I was curious if anyone else had some quotes they wanted to discuss.
I got nothing. Not one single thing.
I am in the middle of, well, and I'm in the beginning stages of creating a paper for the Texas Lodge of Research,
Nice.
and it's on the history of Royce City. And I haven't even looked in any of the minutes at all. And I have found almost like 14 pages worth of stuff from just the members and the things that they did in the community. They were all like mayors, city councilmen, barbers, grocery store, just auto shop guys. There was one guy who like took a 1928 Ford Coupe and took the body off of it and then made like a panel body for kids to haul them to school. And one of the past masters, who was also a four-time DDGM, and he was a Rockwall County judge. He got the county to pay this guy $2 per student to haul him to school in this panel body.
Man, that was good money
28
back
Ford.
then.
Little cool stories like that I'm finding like all through. Like there's a couple of books on Royce City and just different things. We have a museum downstairs of our lodge, and the lady that curates she's from here, and she knows all kinds of stuff. So I just throwing that out there. I thought that's what I've been kind of diving in deep in. Plus, we've initiated two new guys, which one of them is on here tonight. Brother Treffinger and Brother Billy Williams iPhone will be getting his fellowcraft degree in 2 days.
Nice.
Very nice.
It's my favorite degree.
So yeah, we're just diving deep in masonry, man.
I love it, man. I love what you got going on at Royce City, and I know we said this, but I mean, you're bringing all these new guys onto the conversation and everything. It's I wish I had this when I was going through the degrees. I wish I had this when I was a new Mason. So it's exciting to see them already interested and involved in things like this.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about our lodge right now too. We just made 3 masters, and we've got an EA fixing to come in, and so we're doing pretty good too down in Oso. And not only that, but for the first time since Goliad have I been able to look at the report that we give to the DDGM, and it asks, can you do all the degrees and all that kind of stuff. And for the first time since Goliad, can I say honestly that yes, our lodge can perform all the degrees on all of our brothers, and they can do it very well. It's not just fly by night, barely making it degrees. These are good degrees, and that makes me pretty proud. And not only that, but we've got discussion like at the last meeting. Well, I wasn't at the very last meeting because I had the flu, but the one before that, at the end of it, well, we had one of the brothers that gave a paper on the fellowcraft, and he was one of our new masters, and that was very good. And then at the end, the worshipful master said, well, we got a few minutes. Why don't we do this? He said, why don't we look at Boaz? He said, I'd like for you guys to think about this when you think about Boaz. And so he started talking about Boaz and some of the lessons in the Bible and stuff like that. And then he looked over to me and he said, Dennis, I know you've always got something. So I stood up and I started talking. And I put in a little bit. And then another brother stood up, and then another brother stood up. And man, it all around the entire lodge, we had 5 or 6 brothers that stood up and gave a little bit about Boaz. That every one of them had something different to talk about that pertained to Boaz, and whether it be in the Bible, the ritual, whatever, different things for us to consider before we left about just one simple lesson within Freemasonry. And that was really, really cool. And it's been a long time since I've felt like I was a part of something like that, in a lodge setting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really, really proud of that moment. And I'm glad that we've cultivated that within OSO. And so, like you, Brad, you guys have got some great things going on, and that's exciting to hear. And fortunately, down here in South Texas, there's some great things going on as well. And there's some great things going on in Goliad too. And it's they've been a strong lodge forever, and man, they're carrying the torch like always. And so I couldn't be more proud of our brothers there. All the lodges that I'm a member of, I'm extremely proud of what they're doing in today's Freemasonry. And so, to hear that that's happening in your lodge as well, that's good to know. That's good to know.
We've talked quite a bit in the past about this concept of a Masonic Renaissance, and how we're into the opening throes of this new age, basically, of Freemasonry. And I think a lot of people are like, well, that sounds nice, that's exciting to hear, but I don't see it. I think a lot of people, now, I'm not trying to like toot my own horn, but I think there's some people that are more, I don't want to say, I guess I'll say their fingers are just kind of on the pulse of things, right? And you guys and us and I think we're very sensitive to these kind of things. We can kind of we're when you focus on improvement, you're very keen to observe it, right? And I think that's what I'm getting at. It's not that we're more in tune than anybody else. It's something we talk about. It's something we look for. And so we kind of saw like the birth throes of okay, this is like it's starting to build momentum, right? And that's what we were talking about, like this Masonic Renaissance. I'm starting to see this happen more and more. We're starting to have more festive boards. We're having conversations in our lodge now about educational topics. We're having symposiums. We're having summits. We're having just whatever you want to call them, right? They're all over the place. The Roy City event, the esoteric conference, right? It's happening everywhere, and so it's an exciting time in Freemasonry, and and what's how you really know that we're entering. And I'm not trying to stir anything up, but everything's cyclical, right? Nature's cyclical. When something's born, something else dies, right? The sun comes up, the moon dies. The moon goes down, the moon comes up, the sun dies, right? It's all cyclical. And the real what's the word, what tells me, I guess, so what I just need to say, what tells me that we're entering those this birth of this new Masonic approach, is that we're seeing the signs of the death of the old Masonic approach, right? And unfortunately, that creates a lot of drama, right? But I'm not going to be specific. But not too long ago, we saw some of the death throes of this old guard, this old mentality, which means that something else is rising to take its place, and that is this Masonic Renaissance. This is new approach. This, I would say new, but it's not new, right? It's just the old ideas making a comeback. So that's how I know for sure. I mean, that's the strongest evidence that we are entering that Renaissance, and that these new approaches these new mentalities are, I say new, but you know what I'm talking about, but they are starting to gain traction and starting to gain popularity, and you're starting to see it in more and more lodges, because of all this upheaval. And that's, upheaval's normal anytime you have a transition like this. And honestly, if you look back in the minutes long enough, I'm sure you'll see something very similar, but go in the opposite direction, like the Grand Lodge minutes. In 100 or 200 years from now, you'll go back. But we're in this point now where it's our time to shine, and this is, we got to take advantage of it, hit the ground running.
Well, it goes along with you know, us as individuals. You know, we're just like we started out in the beginning of this conversation tonight with the fact that, you know, we are organic and we evolve, and we as Freemasons, we are shaped and molded into different people as we go, and it will always continue. Well, the fraternity will also.
Mm-hmm.
And while it is cyclical, there's going to be different variables to it, because we're on the downside of a of a loss of the big boom in membership, right? So, you know, there was an upside in one cycle, and then all of a sudden it became very I hate to use the word lack of depth, because there were a lot of deep individuals just very thinned out by the mundane. But now we're back on this other side, and so this point this point that connects these two sides of the hill, one is on the upside, one's on the downside. And while they seem very similar, they're still different in their own right as well. So it's you're right, it's something completely new that we're going through, even though it is cyclical in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're on the downside of it.
Same, right?
Yeah.
Like the theme is there. It was like day and night. No 2 days are the same. The same theme. The sun comes up at the same time and it's bright for a certain amount of time and then it's dark again, right? But no 2 days are the same. No 2 nights are the same. No 2 seasons or years are the same.
Unless you follow the Mayan calendar.
Yeah. What is the? Yeah, it's like 2,000 culpas or whatever they're called until Asako goes back around. Yeah. But yeah, you're right.
Well, that's fresh on my mind. I've been reading
Apocalypse.
Do what?
Said someone's been watching Ancient Apocalypse.
Oh yeah, I watched that whole thing.
It's good.
But I watched a bunch of other stuff as well, and did a little bit of reading also. My daughter's doing a thing on Joan of Arc right now, and I've been reading a lot on her too. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I mean, things are cyclical in nature, and yeah, we're going through a renaissance, and we get to see it firsthand. It's pretty cool getting to see this. You know, the things that we've been yearning for, that we were missing, are coming to fruition, and it's pretty darn awesome getting to see that.
I can't help but wonder, if you look back at the beginning, probably not at the top of that bell curve, but towards the beginning, as that membership was beginning to gain traction. I mean, I have seen records where people are like, "Hey, we need to be careful about this," but it just, the momentum was there and it's too late to do anything. But I wonder if the more esoterically minded people of the day felt attacked, kind of like the more social club minded people of the day, more service organization oriented people, kind of feel defensive now, like you guys are trying to change our fraternity. I bet there's evidence. I'd be willing to bet, because, like I said, you have people that saw it writing on the walls, and that was part of the reason we have the catechism like it is now. Why it's so long here in Texas. I don't remember where I saw it, but there were people pointing out, "Hey, we're getting too many people joining, and the lodges aren't doing a good job of vetting. So we need basically another filter to kind of keep so many people from advancing if they're not
slow them down." Yeah,
slow them down. Not that it helped, because lodges just kind of dropped the ball. But anyway, I bet that's there. I bet it's there, and I mean, we're seeing it today. Probably was 100 years ago.
Yeah, but it is cool. You're right. We get to, especially having this program, you know, we get to see it firsthand through all the conversations that we have on the show, and through people on YouTube, you know, through the chats, and then people that, you know, email us and that we see all around. You know, there's so many cool aspects that we get to be a part of. today. And maybe we're just lucky, and because of our situation, we get to be a part of those things because we are kind of on the pulse.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's still brothers out there that aren't getting to see all the things that we get to see. And I hope that changes. I hope that we can help reach them at some point as well, and help them to find lodges that are doing that kind of stuff, and encourage them as well. That's the goal anyways.
Well, you, I, I felt the same way before about what you're saying, because, I mean, we see it here in Texas, right? Because that's where we are, and but is it really happening elsewhere? But I think it's really the opposite. I think more is happening than we're really seeing, and the reason I say that is, like, we went to Grand Lodge, and there's guys from Australia, like, oh, we love y'all's show. It's like a huge deal in Australia. I had no idea. I had no idea.
Oh, well, and we're fixing to expand into the Philippines as well. Either this next week or the week after, we'll be recording with our brothers from the Philippines. There's a big Filipino base in Houston, and several of the brothers are going to come on the show with us, and we're going to record a show with them, and for all of y'all to get to know some of their, the if you've ever been to a festive board with these brothers, you'll know, man, these boys are festive. They are the most awesome brothers to hang out with. They are so fun and so loving and so genuine in everything that they do. They really are. I have never met, I say never. I haven't met many brothers that are as fun, caring, and loving as these brothers, and just excited about Freemasonry.
They're always festive, and you'll never be bored.
I want to say this about our Filipino brothers: you will not eat better.
That's
oh
a
my God.
Fact.
Oh
That's
my
a fact.
God. I am dying for decent Filipino food. And I had to travel to Austin to get it.
Yeah. They make it in Houston. They make it all themselves too. They don't buy anything. Their wives are making all that food, and it's good, authentic Filipino food. And oh my gosh, so much more than anybody could ever want. And it's, just for the taking. So we're going to have
not a green bean to be found anywhere.
No, there is
not.
Not any form of variation. Yeah. There's no form of green beans in there. Now, unfortunately, we're going to have this show in either next week or the week after, and then we'll be able to air it soon after that. But I talking about us being on the pulse of Masonry, I'm fortunate enough. One of the brothers that's going to be on the show, he texted me and said he wanted to personally invite me to come out to his lodge in March 5th. And it's a Wednesday, so I'll miss that night. But anyways, he asked me if I would come out to his lodge because the Grand Master of the Philippines is coming to his lodge to speak. Cool. And he wants me to come out and meet the Grand Master of the Philippines. And so, that stuff just wouldn't happen if we hadn't, been a part of this show. Or I don't know, it might have happened, but I feel like if we hadn't had this and had the outreach that we have, and trying to reach brothers and get the word out and, help people along in their Masonry, I just don't think I would have that opportunity. And I'm very fortunate. I'm very excited to be going down for that, or going over for that, I should say. Actually, that's kind of
exactly
north
where you're supposed to be.
Right? Isn't that awesome? I'm so excited. I can't wait. I'm just, counting the days. But so anyways, and that was one of his direct comments was, you guys are fixing to hit the South Pacific like you wouldn't believe. And I'm pretty excited about that, because it's, there's nothing that would make me more proud than having our Filipino brothers appreciate us as much as I appreciate them and what they bring to the table.
The districts that we're probably having the greatest effect on are the ones that are the quietest. For that reason, right? Like, I was talking to the brother from Australia, and He's like, we're not allowed to do things like this. We can't have podcasts and stuff like that. And so, of course, it's going to be popular because you're kind of being stifled, right? So you're gonna seek out the things you can't get elsewhere. And so that's I don't know what the Philippine situation is, but that's my point. Like we're probably doing a lot more good in places that we have no idea we're being beneficial just because they're quiet jurisdictions. And that's a thing. You have loud jurisdictions like Texas, and you have very quiet jurisdictions like like
Right.
Australia, apparently.
Well, it from what I understand, the Freemasonry in the Philippines is very different, a lot more conservative and hard to get into than here in America. It's more like the traditional what you would expect overseas, and so I could see where it might be, where there might not be any podcasts or anything over there. So hopefully we can be something for people to think about, and I can't wait to learn from them. When they come on the show, I can't wait. I can't wait for our viewers to learn from them because like I said, there's
You need to get that Grandmaster on, man.
maybe I'll see about that.
Nice.
Right? With Zoom, we can do anything.
We can do all good things, yes.
Yeah.
And
with Zoom.
it's funny. I actually heard a story out of the Philippines several years ago about American Freemasons who were military men who wanted to visit a lodge in the Philippines, but the language barrier was insurmountable. So in order to vet these guys, the Filipino lodge members more or less disassembled their lodge and had the Americans come in and set it up, put the chairs where they belong, put the staffs where they belong, all of the stuffs.
Huh.
And that was because, how are you going to say the Tyler's Oath in Tagalog?
Yeah. That might even be a problem because a lot of lodges don't put their altar in the same place.
West Texas versus East Texas even. But still, we have Grandview that lets us work within that. But prior to the advent of things like Amity and Grandview, it was difficult for visiting Masons, especially in countries foreign to their own, to make those visitations work. And if there was a language barrier involved, I felt like this was just like a super cool story about how you overcome that barrier just with a little bit of ingenuity.
I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That is awesome.
Excuse me. Well, let's go into closing thoughts because it'll probably be well after 10:30 by the time we get through with them.
Okay. Y'all go ahead.
You still seem like you're a little drained, man.
I would like to kind of go talking about what you were just talking about, Byron, about overcoming barriers of kind of what we started talking about tonight about the mindset of this just being some superficial social club, getting over the barrier of that. And and I was talking to Brother Treffinger earlier about this. Do y'all remember when David Rogers was speaking at the esoteric event and he was talking about Grandma's ham?
Yes.
The Grandma's ham story. Because that's just the way we always did it, and I feel like a lot of lodges are doing and falling into that rut because they're always doing things the same way and never trying to, have a little ingenuity like Brother Weber, Right Worshipful Weber was talking about. I'm like the little girl that's asking the mom, why are you cutting the ends of the ham off? Why do you keep cutting the ends of the ham? That's the way Grandma showed me. But why? I'm that guy. I'm that guy that's asking, why are we doing it this way whenever this lodge over here is doing doing it this way and they're being more successful in their lodge, but we're not doing things like that, and we're struggling over here. So why are we doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of been my whole mentality ever since I came to this lodge is because the guy that was the worshipful master whenever I started, he basically helped me. He showed me how to travel from our lodge to go over and meet with these guys when I was an EA. And this guy Buzz, his name is Buzz, and he would ride with us. And he always said, "Well, Tony's wife is out of town and he's hungry, and there's no food at his house, and this lodge is meeting tonight, so we're gonna go over here and so Tony can eat." So Tony was hungry, and that's the reason why how I learned to travel different lodges.
Nice.
Anyway, I digress. But yeah, I was just thinking about what Byron just said, and that's exactly been my whole thought process this whole few years that I've been a Mason, is that I want to do the things that these successful lodges are doing during my year that I'm the worshipful master this year, and I planned my whole year as a build up for those 3 years that I've been a Mason to do things the way I've been doing them now. I feel like it's helping a little. It's helping change. We don't cut the ends of the ham off anymore. We got a bigger pan, so the ham fits in the pan. You don't have to cut the ends of the ham off.
I love that. I love that. All right, Byron or Daniel or John, do y'all have anything?
Go ahead, Daniel.
I was just going to say, I think it was great to have that quote tonight, to think about, what are we doing? How are we doing it? Where are we wanting to go? And I got the opportunity to go to OLT this weekend and put a lot of thoughts in my head and a lot of planning that's going to go in for the next couple of years as to
How was
directions
OLT?
of our lodge, and working with other people in our lodge that are planning on going. Are we going the same direction? Are we going to make a vision that's going to be worthwhile
Did you
long
enjoy it?
term?
Was it good?
I did overall. It was really good.
I'm glad. I'm glad it was good. Byron or John, do y'all have something?
Yeah, just real quick. I know I come into this with a different background from a lot of folks. I'm a military brat. I'm a non-Christian, and one of the things that has really added to my Masonic experience is the ability to have these. I don't want to use the word uncomfortable, but these kind of odd feeling experiences, or odd feeling conversations rather, with folks who believe differently than I do, and have those conversations be meaningful, be deep, and not be a situation of one-upsmanship. I don't have to prove to you that my belief is right. I just have to illustrate for you how my belief differs, and that difference, I believe, is the true heart of what makes Masonry truly wonderful and truly useful in our modern world. And I'm not a modern dude. I'm pushing 60, boys. I am Gen X, as Gen X gets. But at the same time, I'm not a closed-minded man. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can from everybody I can learn it from. And that quote that you started tonight with, not any one man can speak for Masonry as a whole. That's why that struck so true to me, why it struck so hard. No one man can speak for all of Masonry, because no one man has experienced all of Masonry. No one man has experienced all of life. My experiences are are broad and varied. I can't tell you how many people I have known who have been born, raised, lived, and died in the same community for their entire lives. That's not my experience. My experience is being born on one side of the country, being raised everywhere else, and learning from all of these different cultures. Because you're a silly person if you don't believe that this country is a multicultural country.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I'm so in love with and enamored with and dig Filipino food, because I'm a Navy brat, and we have Filipinos everywhere we go, and they always open restaurants, and the food is freaking amazing. Eat the food, for crying out loud. Sorry, I got a little weird there. But,
I've actually never had Filipino food, so now
brother,
I gotta try it.
Borderline fetish there.
Yeah.
Hot dogs and the spaghetti.
I'm not gonna say that my nipples are hard, because they're not. But the food is freaking amazing.
But it did make you think about your nipples.
It did make me think about my nipples.
My gosh,
the quality has gone downhill. We're
yes.
talking about Byron's nipples.
Yes.
Family-friendly rating.
It's that good, for crying out loud. It really is that good. The flavors, because if you think about it for a moment, okay, so I don't know where the Philippines were prior to the Spanish-American War, but they were a territory of Spain, and then became a territory of the U.S., and then became their own country, right? So we have three very different culinary influences there, but there are also Oriental and Polynesian food influences there. So the food is just freaking, it's off the chain, dude. It is so crazy good. Yeah, eat the food. Eat the food.
We're going to take a real sharp turn now. But I wanted to revisit.
Please do, because I know I came a little unhinged there.
I just think of that part of Waterboy where they're trying to make that last touchdown on that farmer sitting there rubbing his nipples in the audience, like Peach as they.
Oh man, nice.
But we're talking about emulation, right? Mimicry is one of the most sincerest forms of flattery, in my opinion. Of course, give credit where credit's due. As an educator, it's always been kind of an unspoken thing where if you find somebody's stuff and it's good, like, you're free to use it. Basically, like, if someone has, hey, here's this test I made, use it or not, great. I'm gonna. It's better than what I have. I'm gonna use that, or like, hey, I do this type of bell ringer. Oh, I don't do any bell ringers, so let me learn what you're doing, and I'm gonna do that in my room, and then I will adjust it as necessary for my class. My point is, if you know of a lodge and they're doing something different, and it's good, and it seems to be good, bring it to your lodge just as it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then, based off how your brothers react to it, and I mean, be observant. Is this being effective? How can I make it more effective? Then you have to mold it to the culture of your lodge. But if something is working and it is beneficial, and I'm not talking about, hey, and this is a great example. There's another lodge that does a skeet shoot. It's like, well, my catfish fry isn't working. Let's do a skeet shoot. No. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying, hey, this lodge makes potential members visit for 6 months before they get a petition, and they have much higher retention. Maybe we should try that, right? Or, hey, this lodge makes it a point to invite a member of the community and recognize them and encourage them to bring their family and dine with us before our meeting, and they got 3 new EAs within the last 2 months by doing this. Maybe we should try something like that. But my point is, find something that works, and don't look for like a quick fix, because there's no quick fixes. But find something that works, bring it to your lodge, and adapt it for the culture of your lodge over time. But just bring it and try it. And so my point, like you're talking about, hey, this lodge is doing this, they're really successful, why don't we do something like this? You should always question your practices. This is the value of traveling, because you go and visit and say, hey, this lodge has their meals catered, or they have this educational piece during this time in the lodge, and they had these discussions. They talked about Boaz, and I really enjoyed that. How can we bring something like that to our lodge? Do that, and your lodge will grow. It will grow. But if you stick in this echo chamber where you never visit another lodge, so you never see new ideas, and nobody's willing to try anything new, and they're not always looking, I don't know. Maybe it's just because as an educator, I'm always looking for ways to improve the quality of my lessons. Always try to find ways to improve engagement, and increase the quality of my lessons, because they have a star test in the end of the year that they have to qualify for, right? They have to do well on. So I'm always when I'm visiting other classes, or I'm talking to other science teachers, what are they doing? How are they doing it? What programs are they using? Right? How long are their tests? What kind of questions are they incorporating into their test? Blah 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 blah, yada yada, right? When you go into another lodge, you should have the same mentality. What kind of food are they having? When are they eating? How many people are showing up? What are they talking about? How good is their opening? How good is and it's not a judgment thing. What are they doing during their lodges? How are they handling business? Is it quick? Is it all committees? Is it being delegated? Is the worship master doing everything by himself? What kind of programs do they have? What else are they doing between meetings? Look at these things, and if you think they are beneficial, and even if you don't think it's beneficial, if it seems to be beneficial for that lodge, consider bringing it over, because the greatest men always stood on the shoulders of giants, right? And you can say, well, the giants. Well, no, the giants stood on the shoulders of other giants. The greatest lodges are standing on the shoulders of the best practices of other lodges, right? Or the best practices they're finding by doing their research. But they're willing to try new things. You have to be willing to fail. That's the thing. I'm not trying to get political, so don't take this the wrong way. But we have a certain president, and some people talk about how many businesses he's had fails and things like that. Any successful, any billionaire, any rich person probably has had more failures than they've had successes. Look at the NBA. Look at Michael Jordan, for example. I mean, he's probably missed more shots than he's made in his entire career. And I'm talking about practice and everything. He's probably missed more shots than he's made. You have to be willing to fail to get that success. You may bring 5 programs into your lodge, and 4 of them are failures, but that one that's successful made all the difference to your lodge. But you don't know until you try. So, hats off to any lodge that's willing to travel. The brothers are willing to travel. They're willing to try new things. I mean, I'm always looking for new ways to improve Masonic improvement. I'm always watching other YouTube channels. What are they doing? How are they doing it? It's hard to find other Masonic YouTube channels that are like what we're doing, but I'm always looking at there's certain channels that talk about like best practices for YouTube, and so I'm always trying to learn how to do new things, and I think we need to do that, not just in our lives, right, but also in our lodges. So anyway, a little more ranty than usual for a wrap up, but I think what we talked about tonight is really important, and I think this willingness to adopt other practices that appear successful is really important, because that is the best way to grow, and I think there's no shame in just saying, hey, I really like that, let's do this here. Now, I think there is shame if you're trying to do that with a fundraiser for different reasons, because a lot of people think it's a quick fix for money, and it's not. But I think as far as like actually bringing substance and value to your lodge, it's invaluable to do that. I think it's a great idea. So, thanks. So, anyway, I appreciate all of you, and I always say this, but I really do mean that. You always force me to be introspective, which is good, because after a weekend of dealing with 3 little screaming gremlins, it's kind of I need a chance to like refocus. So I really appreciate that. If anyone's watching this and you want a piece of this inner circle cake, then I suggest you look down below the video. There's a little join button, and get in on the inner circle, and you'll have access to the Zooms, the all our content ad free. And for example, like if you watch our videos, like we had a video drop today, but the full video has been out for like a week or maybe even longer, totally ad free to the members. So they already had a sneak peek at everything. So there's definitely an advantage to being an inner circle, and I would invite you to come and take part of our conversation, because I mean, we got John here. Royce City. If we had a traveling gavel, Royce City would be winning it tonight. And it's kind of encouraging me. He's like, why is Brad bringing all these people, but I have not brought anyone from my lodge? So it's kind of forcing me to like, damn.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I'm like, man, maybe I need to pick up my game. I do have members from my lodge on the inner circle, but they're not coming to this, so maybe I need to start dragging them here too. But it'd be a fun competition. But anyway, so I appreciate all of you. Thank you all for your insight. And I believe it's Dennis's turn, unless John had something.
All right. John, do you have something?
Not I, no sir. Okay. Glad to have you, John.
Okay. All right. So, very first thing, my takeaway for this evening is something that I deal with on a personal level, and that's attempting to, constantly working on removing my ego from the situation. In whether it be in my home life, my lodge life, my business life, whatever it is, the more I can remove my ego from the situation, the better all outcomes are. And the more I'm willing to see people for who they are and where they are in their life, in their circumstance, in their thoughts, the better I am, the more capable I am of being receptive to what their needs may be that I can help with. If I can't help, can I get them to the right place to get them the help? Because sometimes we have to be willing to ask someone else to take on the lion's share of a particular project or what have you, so that it can be successful. We need to remove ourselves from that. Sometimes we have to remove our ego so that we can allow our lodge to grow. We can have our preconceived notions on what we believe Masonry is, but like we spoke of today, what I believe Masonry isn't necessarily what anyone else here believes Masonry is. I mean, we all have similar thoughts, but our experiences are all completely different, because we all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different lodges. We all come from different socioeconomic situations. I mean, it's just the way it is, and the way our lodges are. So, if we can't remove our own prejudices from the equation, how are we going to see when a better potential comes available to us? I don't think it means that we should lay down when we've got something going good. I think that means that we should we should keep focusing our energies on the positive, and but be open for new life and new energy into our lodge. Something that, being that we're studying the Kabbalion, and which is another reason why I would join right now if I were you. This is my second book of the Kabbalion. I can't find my original one. My original one looks like Justin's. I'm wondering if I gave it to him.
What year that version is?
I'm wondering if this was
the 1940.
Yeah, the 1940 is the original version. This one is the centenary edition. It's the 100-year, or not 100-year. Well, yeah, it's the 100-year edition because the original one was in 1908, I think.
It says copyright 1912.
Well, yeah,
copyright on here.
But it was originally written in 1908, I believe.
Got you.
But anyways, so there's not a better reason for me to encourage anyone out there that's looking for all the light that's available to you. Not that I have the answers, not that this book has all the answers, but we collectively have a lot of answers, and we have a lot of different thoughts on what these pages read. And so together we're going to discuss these chapters in the book, and record it for the benefit of others. And there is no right or wrong in it. It's going to be what your perspective is at this point in time, and based off of however long you've been a Mason, however long you've been a human, however long you've been into esoteric studies, doesn't really matter. It's all based off of your perspective today when you're reading it today. So if you want to jump on and join the inner circle, then you can get in on this discussion with us, and be a part of this little book club, the Inner Circle Book Club that we're going to have. I think it's going to be a cool addition to what we do in Masonic improvement. I'm excited about it. I've already got my eye on the next book after this that I'd like to suggest a little bit later. First, let's get partially through this one, and then I'll suggest the next one. But anyways, if Justin had not been open to having another host share the screen with him, he originally founded Masonic Improvement. Now, granted, I joke a lot and say that I brought the talent, and I'm sorry, it is what it is. But no, if Justin hadn't been open to, realizing that, having that addition could benefit not only the show, but, the viewers, and most especially all the Masons and non-Masons out there that are watching. If he didn't have that humility and remove his ego from the equation, this would have never happened. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing today. And the same thing happens with the lodges as well. You see lodges that are failing, and then you see lodges that are rejuvenating. And what it all boils down to is a simple choice to think about I in a narcissistic manner, or think about we as a collective, and think about you as an individual who brings value to the table. And I want you to receive just as much light as I've received, and I want to help you get there if I can. And if I can't, you may have far surpassed me already and be a 3-year Mason. Who knows? But like I said before, at every point we have to be willing to be the apprentice as well as the master. And the master understands that. The master understands that he's always the apprentice. And the master is willing to remove himself from the equation to gain that insight and that light from others. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that we should remember tonight. And I am grateful to all you guys. You know, I'm grateful for where I am in life, with the challenges that I have in my own life right now with different things. I would not be as well equipped to handle them as I'm handling them right now with you brothers being right here with me. And with the things that we talk about, the things that we do, the things that we reiterate to each other, so it keeps it in the forefront of my mind and my thoughts when I'm dealing with all of those people around me and all those situations around me. And I think that's the benefit that Freemasonry has beyond all other benefits. It's that brotherhood. Because it's that willingness for other brothers to pick me up when I'm falling. And my trust in those brothers to catch me when I get knocked down. You know, that's something that you just don't find in today's world. We live in a facade of a world, always comparing ourselves to the next greatest YouTube channel, the next greatest Facebook post,
Which are also all
TikTok, whatever.
facades.
Yeah, whatever the latest and greatest social media is today. I don't even know. I'm an Xer. I like skateboards. I do. Oh, I'm making myself sick to my stomach. Oh, but I'm still pretty good at that social media thing. But all of that is secondary. You know, this is the real deal. And having this to help me in my everyday life, you make me a more tender person when my daughter comes to hug me. And she needs that. And I appreciate that from you guys. And any of you brothers out there that want to become inner circle members, and to be honest with you, you don't have to be a Mason to become an inner circle member. Sorry, the girls just got home. You don't have to be a brother to be an inner circle member. You know, you can go through this with us, with the Kabbalion. I mean, this is a book that you get on Amazon, or other fine book trading places. I don't even know what to call them anymore. Retail centers, if you can find one. But you know, you can find it at Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, whatever. You can probably find it on Walmart.com if you want to get down to brass tacks. But the thing is that no matter where you are in your journey, you're in the right place right here, right now. And I'm glad you're right here with us. And I happen to be a Mason. And these are some of my true and trusted friends. And I hope that someday you find that in your journey as well. Whether you are a Mason or not, I hope you find that intimate interpersonal connection that I have with my brothers. I hope you find that. And if we can be a beacon to get you there, man, that makes me more proud than anything. That's all I want from this show. That's all I want from these brothers is to help you to get all the light that you deserve. So brothers, without any further ado, I would like to close this out. Say I love you, thank you, and keep it between the points.
Later. Real quick, everybody, for the inner circle.